Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopika Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mayi ki jai. Yamuna Mayi ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Sorry I'm late. Anyway, yeah, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Asina Paryatan Ashnan Shayana Prapiban Bruvan Nanusandhatta Etani Govinda Parirambhita Asinaf Paryatan Ashnan Shayanaf Prapiban Bruvan Nanusandatta etani Govinda Parirambhitaha Asinaf Paryatan Ashnan Shayanaf Prapiban Bruvan Nanusandatta etani Govinda Parirambhitaha Asinaf Paryatan Ashnan Shayanaf Prapiban Bruvan Nanusandhatta etani Govinda Parirambhitaha Anybody else? On Zoom?
Ashina Paryatan Ashnam Shayana Prapiban Ruban Nanushandatta etani Govinda Parirambhita
Asina while sitting, Paryatan while walking, Ashnan while eating, Shayana while lying down. Thank you. Prapiban while drinking, Bruvan while talking, Na not, Anusandhatte new, Etani all these activities, Govinda by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enlivens the senses, Parirambhitaha being embraced. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prahlāda Mahārāja was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Thus, being always embraced by the Lord, he did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, lying down, drinking, and talking, were being automatically performed. Purport. A small child, while being cared for by his mother, does not know how the needs of the body for eating, sleeping, lying down, passing water, and evacuating are being fulfilled. He is simply satisfied to be on the lap of his mother. Similarly, Prahlāda Mahārāja was exactly like a small child, being cared for by Govinda. The necessary activities of his body were being performed without his knowledge. As a father and mother care for their child, Govinda cared for Prahlāda Mahārāja, who always remained absorbed in thoughts of Govinda. This is Krishna consciousness. Prahlāda Mahārāja is the vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Zhagana Raghunatanmitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm sorry again for being a little bit late. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is said to have 10 topics, which I won't list all of them, but the 7th canto specifically focuses on uti. Uti meaning inclination. So there are various kinds of inclinations one can have. One can have toward different things. But specifically, it's talking about the different kinds of inclinations that people have toward Krishna and devotional service to Krishna. So this pastime, which we're reading about now with Prahlāda Mahārāja and Hiranyakashipu and eventually Nrsimhadev, is meant to showcase, by the dichotomy between Prahlāda Mahārāja and Hiranyakashipu, the two, you could say, main types of inclinations toward the Lord, namely favorable and unfavorable. Hiranyakashipu, of course, had a very unfavorable inclination toward the Lord in the sense that he wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill Krishna, wanted to kill God. Whereas Prahlāda Mahārāja, like Srila Prabhupada says in this purport, was the vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. Prahlāda Mahārāja is, of course, the example of favorable uti, or favorable inclination toward Krishna. Therefore, Prahlāda Mahārāja is known. Well, one thing is he's known as one of the Mahajanas, one of the great personalities, great devotees of Krishna, and he's also called by the devotees Bhaktaraj. Bhaktaraj meaning the king of the devotees. Raja means king and Bhakta means devotees. So Prahlāda Mahārāja is the vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. Why? Why is he the vivid example of Krishna consciousness? First, it would be, of course, useful in such a discussion to define what Krishna consciousness is. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse which goes, Savaipum samparo dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahaitika prati hataya yatma suprasidati. It says, this is the first canto, 2nd chapter, 6th verse. Savaipum samparo dharmo, paradharma, or the ultimate dharma, or ultimate religion, you could say, or in this case, dharma is more used in the sense of activity or engagement. The supreme engagement or the ultimate engagement for those, for pumsa, for humans, is savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje, that by which one can achieve bhakti to adhokshaja, Krishna, another name for Krishna. Adhokshaja meaning he who's beyond the realm of the senses. And what is the nature of that bhakti? That nature of that bhakti is ahaituki. It's unmotivated, means it's not. There's no material motivation. It's done with pure intent, and it's apratihata, which means that it's uninterrupted. It's consistent. It's consistently rendered with pure intent. Those are the two qualities of pure bhakti. So Prahlāda Mahārāja, from the beginning of his life, meaning like the very beginning of his life, since before he was even born, when he was still in the womb, he had the opportunity to hear from Narada Muni, who is a great devotee of Krishna, about topics of Krishna, about the nature of Krishna and Krishna consciousness, on the pretext of his mother actually being instructed. His mother is, of course, the wife of Hiranyakashipu, and she was taken into the ashram of Narada Muni, by Narada Muni, and she was in great distress. She was pregnant with Prahlāda Mahārāja at the time. So she was in great distress. So as Kayadu was being spoken to by Narada Muni, saying, just calm down, this is what's actually going on, instructing her about spiritual topics to relieve her, or to assuage her distress. She couldn't hear any of it. She was in too much anxiety. But Prahlāda Mahārāja, he took the opportunity at that point to, despite everything that was going on, despite the fact that he was in the womb, despite, whatever, he listened. He, as Srila Prabhupada often says, he rendered submissive oral reception. Oral with an AU, not a O. Oral reception means with the ears. He received it with his ears. So Prahlāda Mahārāja was receptive despite whatever was going on around him. And this also actually, in this verse, verse in the first canto, one of our acharyas in his commentary describes that actually these two words, ahaitiki and apratihata, each of them have two different meanings. So one of the meanings of apratihata is that pure devotional service is uninterrupted. It's consistently rendered. Another one is that pure devotional service is unable to be broken. The flow of pure devotional service and the execution of pure devotional service is unable to be. It's not only uninterrupted, but it's unable to actually be interrupted by anything, stopped by anything. Therefore, there's this verse by Rupa Goswami, Sarvata dvamsa rahitam satyapi dvamsa karane yad bhava bandhanam yuno saprema parikirtitaha. That love, which is shared between two people, which is unbroken despite so many obstacles, unlimited obstacles, that is called prema. And I shouldn't have said two people actually, because the two people he's speaking about, he uses this word kind of colloquially, or conventionally, I should say. The two entities he's talking about is the living entity and Krishna, the soul and God. So that love which is unbroken despite so many obstacles, that is called prema, or pure devotional service. So it didn't matter that Prahlāda Mahārāja was in the womb. It didn't matter that he was, a baby in the womb. Didn't matter that he was, not even the one being spoken to. Because he was because these two conditions were there. That Narada Muni was a pure Vaishnava, a potent Vaishnava, who was instructing, and that Prahlāda Mahārāja was a receptive disciple It didn't matter that there was these obstacles. The flow of bhakti went from Narada Muni to Prahlāda Mahārāja. So this is also an example of ahaituki. Ahaituki bhakti, meaning bhakti which is unmotivated, with no material motivation. But in this case specifically, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes it, the alternate meaning, that it's causeless. Pure devotional service is causeless. It's interesting because often devotees, ask each other, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? What brought you here? Or you could say in a more pointed kind of way, what caused your devotional service? But our acharyas repeatedly say, and Srimad Bhagavatam also says, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, that pure devotional service, or that devotional service, bhakti, is caused by bhakti. So how do we square that? How is bhakti caused by bhakti? If I don't have bhakti, and then I develop bhakti, and we say that bhakti was caused by bhakti. And we're not saying that it's caused by, well, yeah. The idea is that pure bhakti is caused by pure sadhana. So one might not be a pure devotee, meaning he might not have reached the highest stage of Krishna consciousness, but if he has this other quality of ahaituki, meaning that he has no material motivation to engage in bhakti. He's not thinking, okay, I'm going to engage in bhakti for the sake of gratifying my senses, or for the sake of getting some riches, or for the sake of becoming some big guy, Get some reputation, some followers, nadanam najanam nasundarim, like this. Then that although one hasn't reached the highest levels of Krishna consciousness, that sadhana, or that engagement, is still said to be pure. So what causes, because it still hasn't really answered the question, what causes one to come to the level of engaging in pure sadhana? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it's not, first he describes what it's not. He said it's not engagement in various sacrifices. It's not engagement in pious activity. It's not engagement in yoga. It's not engagement in charity. All these different things. He says that these things can lead to some semblance of bhakti, but actually this semblance of bhakti, the semblance of devotional service, is actually not real bhakti. He says it's actually an anga of gyan, or a limb of the process of speculative kind of spiritual practice. It's not actual bhakti to Krishna. And then he says, bhakti is actually not even caused by the mercy of the Lord. It's not that, I got Krishna, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, it's not that one gets the mercy of the Lord and then engages in bhakti. Because then he says, that's a secondary cause. It's not the final cause. Because then the question comes, how did I get the mercy of the Lord? Because if it's just, okay, Krishna's just kind of like looking down and picking and choosing people who to give bhakti to, then, and it's just random. Well, there's two. Either it's just random, and he's picking some people and he's not picking other people just randomly. That would be immoral. Or he's prejudiced. He has some that this person deserves and this person doesn't because of some prejudice. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if one were to say that associating with devotees was the cause, he said that would be more correct, or he would say that would be the most correct. But you can't say that association with devotees is the cause of bhakti, because associating with devotees is a limb of bhakti. It's a part of bhakti. It's actually the second stage of bhakti. Ado shraddha tata sadhu sangha. It's the second stage of bhakti. But he says, just as one can conventionally say that the cause of a ripe mango is an unripe mango, in that way one can say that associating with devotees is the cause of bhakti. You can't really say that the cause of an unripe mango, or of a ripe mango, is an unripe mango, because they're the same thing. So that you could say the mango is caused by that itself. So in that way we say that bhakti is caused by bhakti, because bhakti comes from pure devotees, is given to the conditioned souls by means of the limb of bhakti called sadhu sangha, associating with devotees. So in that way, bhakti has no external cause. It's just the immature state of bhakti brings about the mature stage of bhakti. But the immature stage of bhakti still has to be unmotivated, in the sense that it has to be performed with achieving pure devotional service. It's not that one engages in karma mishra bhakti, or mixed devotional service mixed with the desire for some fruitive gain, and then one achieves pure bhakti. That doesn't lead to pure bhakti. Actually, pure bhakti is caused by pure sadhana, or sadhana which is done with a pure intention. And so that bhakti, which is then given, just like Narada Muni gave Prahlāda Mahārāja the bhakti which he had. And the bhakti that Narada Muni had, which he gave to Prahlāda Mahārāja, was, as we discussed, is apratihata. It's unable to be broken by anything. We have there's two things which are often, there's a verse, but the two main principles of Krishna consciousness which are given. One is always remembering Krishna, and the other is never forgetting Krishna, which are two different things actually. Because one could say, okay, I always remember Krishna. In every situation I always remember Krishna. But that doesn't mean that you never forgot him. It just means that, okay, that at some point you remember him. But then you may forget about him again. But to never forget about Krishna, apratihata, to have one's devotional service to be completely unbroken, is a stage of pure devotional service. Or is indicative of one's, like Srila Prabhupada says in this purport, being the vivid example of perfection in Krishna consciousness. So, for one who is a pure devotee, even things like like this verse in the Bhagavatam is saying, Asina paryatan nashnan shayana praviban brvan. He's sleeping, he's walking, sitting, eating, lying down, drinking, talking. All of these things were being taken care of for Prahlāda Mahārāja. They were just things that were, you could say, almost happening to him, rather than he was actually doing them. Why? Because he wasn't doing them for himself. He wasn't sitting down thinking or eating or drinking or all these things. Prahlāda Mahārāja was never doing any of it for his own personal gain, for his own personal sense gratification. Rather, when one is a pure devotee, all of the activities, even activities of self-preservation, or kind of mundane activities of the body, they become activities of pure devotional service. The example is often cited of Ambarish Maharaj. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane Karo Harir Mandira Marjanadishu Shrutim Chakar Achita Satkatodaye. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayor. He always engaged his mind in thinking of Krishna. People think so many thoughts. People use their mind to think of so many different things, to come up with so many different things based on their inclination. Hiranyakashipu used his mind to think of all the different ways that he could get in a position where he would be able to kill God, where he'd be able to kill Vishnu. Whereas Ambarish Maharaj and Prahlāda Mahārāja always used their mind to think of Krishna and never forget him. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane. Ambarish Maharaj always used his faculty of speech to enumerate the glories of Krishna, of Vishnu. Karohare Mandira Marjanadishu, he used his hands to clean the temple of Vishnu, of Hari. Shrutim Chakarachyuta Satkutode, and he used his ears to always hear about topics of Krishna. And there's a number of things, there's 3 verses in this regard. Also, Mukunda Lingali Darshane Darsha, he used his eyes to see the deity of Krishna. He used his feet, actually the next line says, he used his sense of touch to touch the devotees of Krishna. He used his feet to walk to the holy places of Lord Krishna. So all these different things, these activities of the body, no matter how mundane, even things like resting, for instance. If one looks into the Vaishnava Smritis or the Vaishnava rules and regulations, how one should live, it describes how when one sleeps, they should offer obeisances to their spiritual master before when they go to sleep and when they wake up, meditating on the fact that I'm resting just to be able to keep this body in shape for serving you, my spiritual master, and Krishna. So everything in Krishna consciousness is meant to be used for Krishna. That's the nature of Krishna consciousness. And in this way, actually, Krishna consciousness is the most robust, the most exhaustive process of realizing God. There's no other religion in the world which is as exhaustive in its description of how one should worship God. What to speak of its descriptions of God. In the sense that, again, everything in Krishna consciousness is meant to be used for Krishna service. Speaking, hearing, touching, tasting, walking, sitting, sleeping, everything. There's no point at which one is, you could say, allowed to forget Krishna. So when one does this verse in the first canto, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma Yato Bhakti Hokshaja, Haitika Pratihata, when one has this bhakti which is a Haitiki and a Pratihata, then Yayatma Suprasiditi, one becomes fully satisfied. Not just on a material level, but on the level of the soul. But actually, even on the material level, one becomes completely satisfied. Nothing, just like in the first canto, in the 10th chapter of the first canto, there's this verse, Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya. What is it? Kamam Vavarsha Parjanya. Sarva Kama Dugamahi. Sishachusma Rajan Gava. Bayasodasvit. As a result of plentiful rain, then the land was like it fulfilled all desires. The land grew all kinds of things. Whatever one desired, it could grow. And then Sishajusma Rajan Gava, Bayasodasvatir. And the cows were so plentiful and so satisfied that they would wet the earth, because they were producing so much milk that they would wet the earth with the milk coming from their udders. So in this way, Krishna even takes care of material things. Of course, he may also not. We see with the example of Prahlāda Mahārāja. Prahlāda Mahārāja, at least for some time, it was seen that it seemed like Krishna wasn't taking care of him. It seemed like Krishna was allowing him to experience pain or experience suffering. Or at least putting him in situations where he might. For instance, his father, of course, tried to kill him in so many different ways. Throw him in boiling oil, stab him with spears and swords, and throw him off cliffs, and have him trampled by elephants, have poison administered to him, have different spells or curses as they cast upon him. But throughout all of this, still, just like this verse is saying, Govinda parirambitaha. He was embraced by Krishna. He was embraced by Govinda. The example is also often cited of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was such a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. But he was born in a Muslim family. And so the Muslim king, the Qazi there, in Navadvip in West Bengal, he saw this and he became very upset, and he tried to get him, to convert back to Islam. To which Haridas said, "Anyway, so many Hindus are converting to Islam. So what's the value if one Muslim converts to Hinduism? Doesn't really matter." And so, actually, it's described in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam that the Qazi was ready to just, the Nawab was ready to just leave it at that. But then the Qazi said, no, he's got to be killed. And he convinced the Nawab to kill him. And so he said, okay, fine, whatever. And so then he was sentenced to be beat. There was, in this area where there was 22 marketplaces. So he was sentenced to be beat in all of them. Of course, he was being sentenced to death. Basically, because you can't survive being beat in 22 marketplaces. So it was observed that Haridas Thakur was being beaten so severely. He was being whipped, he was being beaten with sticks, all these different things. But the entire time, he was undisturbed. He just continued chanting. Actually, Haridas Thakur, when he spoke to the Nawab, he said, "You can cut my body into 1,000,000 pieces, I'll never stop chanting. I'll never stop chanting the holy name of Krishna." It's such determination. So, at the end of 22 marketplaces, of course, the Muslim soldiers who were tasked with killing him said, they became somewhat fearful. They said, if you don't die, then we're going to have to die. So Haridas, externally, he went into some kind of samadhi, some kind of trance, appeared to be dead. They threw his body in the river, and he just got right back up and started chanting again. And he was left alone. Later, as revealed in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was exhibiting his Mahaprakash pastime. He was exhibiting his godhood. And he called Haridas, and he said, when you were being beaten, actually, I was on your back. I was taking all the blows. And Mahaprabhu lifted his shirt and he showed Haridas that he had all these marks on his back. He had all these scars on his back from where he was being beaten. So in this way, when we fully surrender to Krishna, when we fully surrender everything to Krishna, mind, body, intelligence, all the senses, everything, jnane prayasam udapasya, when we just surrender completely our intelligence, everything to Krishna, then one of the symptoms of that surrender, rakshashyatiti vishvaso goptritve varanam tata. Then one develops unflinching faith in the fact that Krishna is my protector. Goptritve varanam tata. Just like one would be maintained by a father or by a big brother. Krishna, he says, Sarva yonishu konte murte sambhavantya tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradav pita. He says, I am the seed-giving father of all living entities. Everybody comes from me. He also says, Bhoktaram yakatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam. He says, I am the supreme friend of all living entities. Suhridam. sarvabhutanam. And when one realizes this, Gyatamam Shanti Mrichati, when one realizes this, Gyatva, then he becomes Shanti, he becomes peaceful. Because nothing can touch him. Apratihata. His devotional service cannot be interrupted by anything. And the nature of this devotional service, Kleshagni Shubhada Moksha, Laguta Krit Sudurlabha, Sandrananda Visheshatma, Sri Krishna Karshani Chasa. Kleshagni. Devotional service immediately eradicates all distress. Shubhada, and not only that, but it bestows all auspiciousness. Moksha Lagutakrit. It makes just the idea of just liberation, meaning just being free from all misery, without any idea of becoming attached to or having a relationship with Krishna, it makes this conception seem very insignificant. What's generally referred to as enlightenment or as liberation is a small part of devotional service. It's just it's a side product. Moksha Lagutakrit Sudurlabha. It's very rare. These two, Moksha Lagutakrit and Sudurlabha, the fact that it makes liberation seem very small and that it's very rare. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that these things are manifested specifically on the stage of bhav, or on the stage of just being just before pure devotional service, or completely pure devotional service. Sandra Ananda Visheshatma. It puts one immediately, it immerses one immediately in spiritual bliss. Sandra Ananda Visheshatma. Sri Krishna Karshani Chasa. And you could say also, because it attracts Krishna. Krishna is attracted to devotional service. Krishna wants to have a relationship with everybody. And actually, that relationship is already there. The relationship that every living entity has with Krishna is dormant in the heart. It's that verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabanoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Korya Udoy. That pure devotional service is Nitya Siddha Bhavasya Prakatam Hridi Sadhyata. That by engagement in devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting about Krishna, and chanting his names, it awakens one's dormant relationship with Krishna, which is already there. And one very interesting thing, in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary to this verse in the Bhagavatam, he says that Prahlāda Mahārāja was being embraced by Krishna, was being embraced by Govinda, but nobody saw the Lord but him. But Prahlāda Mahārāja, nobody saw him. And I understood this in a couple different ways, but I think the main way that I understood this was that Krishna, everybody has a very specific relationship with Krishna and an individual relationship with Krishna. Actually, funny, we were discussing last night, there was one devotee who, he became somewhat offensive and he became a Christian. He's actually a Babaji living in Radhakund, and then he left to become a Christian. He was one of Narayan Maharaja's sannyasi disciples, then he took Babaji, and then he became a Christian. At 61 years old. He was a devotee for like 30 years, and then he became a Christian at 61 years old. He left Radhakund. He actually said that, anyway. He said that he had one of the things that, anyway, it's okay. Don't worry about it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, everybody has an eternal and a very individual relationship with Krishna. So Prahlāda Mahārāja, nobody else could see the Lord but Prahlāda Mahārāja. One thing is because he was surrounded by demons. But another thing is that Ye tamam prabhatinte tam satheva bhajamyaham. Krishna says, I reciprocate. However somebody worships me, I reciprocate with them in that way. So Prahlāda Mahārāja, he has a particular relationship with Krishna that nobody else has, and so do we. Everybody has a specific relationship with Krishna, which is like a fingerprint, which nobody else has. Svarasaki Siddhi Braja Gopi Dhana. The wealth of the Braja Gopis, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, is that they have Svarasaki Siddhi. Each of them have their own specific relationship with Krishna. Yogi Dhena Nirvishesha Gyan. Napai ekanistiti. Then nobody. And neither by becoming a great yogi, neither by becoming a great meditator or a great jnani, nobody can achieve this kind of relationship with Krishna by these processes. It's only achieved by pure devotional service in following in the footsteps of Prahlāda Mahārāja. And so this is the state of full satisfaction of the soul. To be ahaituki and apratihata, to have unmotivated, causeless devotional service to Krishna, which is uninterrupted, which is always engaged in at all times. So, if there are any questions or comments on these, yes. Dharmaraj is hungry. Dharmaraj is waiting for breakfast.
Thank you for the class. Can you continue in explain how everything is connected, have connection with movement of Lord Chaitanya and his Sankirtana movement?
How everything
Please connect.
How everything is connected. Well, is there something specific you're thinking of? Because I thought I covered that. Is there anything else you have in mind? Because I thought I covered that.
I don't know how to explain. You speak about this Bhakti, how it appeared, that many times Srila Prabhupada said that Bhakti dormant inside every soul, but is covered. And Lord Chaitanya gave mercy that he, if you remember, when he go to South India, what he did?
He made everybody chant.
He chant and nothing else. Mm-hmm. And like Chaitanya Charitamrita, many examples of this. Then even people which met those who chant with Lord Chaitanya, they was contagious with love. And so this process that Lord Chaitanya gave this process, and this is our hope, only this, to serve Lord Chaitanya and his followers, because of like you said, that no any way, this jnana, etc., nothing. And so, if we use logic, then we should do it, isn't it? We should do it, isn't it?
Do what?
Harinam Sankirtan.
Chanting.
Congregational chanting Hare Krishna.
Yourself and congregation. Just that we met you there.
Anything more? Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. A very beautiful speech from you. I'm in trouble actually, because as you have told, we should have the bhakti level apratihata and ahitoki apratihata, right? But in case of me, all the things are going on conditionally. Like I started chanting with 2 rounds, and even sometimes I did 1 round. But then I started conditioning and some type of business with Krishna. Like, Krishna, I need this, then I will do this. And even now, although I'm doing 16 rounds now, and it's been a long time, but all the things I have achieved, and then I started doing this. It's always conditional, and I can't just get rid of that, really. Finally, I got the shelter of Prabhupada's feet, and it was also conditional. So what should I do in this case?
You should, especially here from and about devotees who are ahitiki and apratihata, and that will inspire you. And serve also. Hear and serve, hear about and from and serve, like, what's that verse? Shushrushrosha dadanasya vasudeva kataruchi. Syan Mahats. Yeah. And by serving, so Shushrushrosha by hearing from and serving devotees, great devotees, then one gets Vasudeva Kataruchi, one gets an interest or a taste for hearing about Krishna. And this taste about hearing about Krishna, to get such a taste, means you have unmotivated devotional service. Means that your devotional service is unmotivated. Because just to hear about somebody, just hearing about Krishna, you're not trying to get anything out of him. You're not, oh, Krishna, I'm going to hear about you so that I can get a lot of money. No, you're hearing about Krishna because you have a taste for hearing about Krishna, because you have a taste for serving Krishna. So, serving devotees, but especially hearing their pastimes. Hearing the pastimes of Prahlāda Mahārāja over and over and over again. Hearing the pastimes of Dhruva and of... Yeah, Dhruva also was a good one, because Dhruva actually, he was approaching the Lord to get a particular boon. But then he became a pure devotee.
Actually, what happens, when I go to service, any type of service, like Sankirtan or dishwashing or anything, I just try to feel like it's my duty to serve Krishna, and it's my love to show Krishna that, yes, really, I love you. And on the other mind, I have this sort of thing like, oh, I'm serving Krishna, so obviously he will give me some. I'm trying to love, and unconditionally, but on the other mind, I'm having some glimpse that, oh yes, you are doing so, you will obviously have something.
Well, yeah, on the platform of sadhana, these things are natural, unless you're a pure devotee, then. But the idea is you have to ignore these things. When the things come up in the mind, then you just ignore it. And that's why it's called practice. You have to practice how to be pure. And as long as you have the proper philosophical conception that Krishna consciousness isn't meant for these things, then it's just a matter of practice and time. But yeah, hearing about these very pure devotees, like hearing about Haridas Thakur, hearing about, especially, Haridas Thakur is very inspiring, but hearing about the Goswamis, hearing about Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and their activities, and about their qualities, is very inspiring. It's very enlivening, actually, because it shows you, just like when you have Prahlāda Mahārāja and Hiranyakashipu next to each other, and you see Prahlāda Mahārāja, he's so great. Compared to Hiranyakashipu, he's so great. Of course, he is, even in and of himself, he's very great. But then, when you read about the Goswamis, or when you read about the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it's just like, they're like Prahlāda Mahārāja and you're like Hiranyakashipu. You start seeing out in, just by contrast. So I'm not saying you're like Hiranyakashipu, but I'm just saying, you see by the difference, you see all of those things within yourself which you have to change. And seeing the kind of happiness that they're relishing, seeing the kind of experience of Krishna consciousness that they're having, then one becomes very inspired that, okay, if I want happiness, then this is the real place to find happiness. Yaya atma suprasidati. If you want to become satisfied, then all these different lower levels of happiness won't cut it, because they're temporary. And you'll feel that I want to experience what they're experiencing. I want to experience what Sanatana Goswami is experiencing. Or I want to, even you could say, I want to experience what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing when he sees Jagannath. Of course, we can't experience that. That's only for him and Srimati Radharani. But we can experience to an extent like this.
Okay. So as you are telling, is all about time and practice.
Time and practice.
Yeah.
Just like we have to practice being ahituki, we have to practice being unmotivated. We have to practice apratihata. You have to practice being uninterrupted. Sometimes you may become interrupted, our devotional service. But then when you realize that it's been interrupted, then you bring the mind back like this.
Go back again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare
Just
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything more? On Zoom?
Thank you for wonderful class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I want to add something that you said everything right, but also we should add one thing: this relationship with Guru or advanced Vaishnavas, and in this way. Because if we only hearing and not develop relationship with Vaishnavas, it will be only beginning. But next stage is we should go
that's why I said hear
in deep relationship with Vaishnavas.
Yeah, hear from and serve.
And very, very, how to say, we should emphasize is that should be close relationship with Guru, with Vaishnavas, advanced Vaishnavas. So because of serve to Vaishnavas means not physical serving for something, help them. This is very, how to say, little. Real service is when we help them in mission. Every Vaishnava has some mission, and if we help them, and if we dedicate life to this, that process, that Vaishnava satisfied, and also one of the services when we develop, how to say, when we inspire to serve, to become a pure devotee also, this is a very nice service for advanced devotees.
Jai. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.